He's one of the best and best known professional sports trainers in Southern California. Todd Norman has trained thousands of athletes from all over the country. Today, Todd sits down to discuss sports training, nutrition, and a great deal more. If you're in sports or have a child in sports, you'll find it invaluable information. I'm Paul Higgins. This is Coach's Corner, and it all starts right now. Hello everybody, I'm Paul Higgins and welcome once again to the Shops in Mission Viejo. This is Coach's Corner. So glad to have you, and as you can see in the beginning of the show, we have a fantastic show for you. And this is, of course, as we talked about it already, Todd Norman from Cutting Edge Sports Training. And I've known Todd for quite so many years. Back when he was playing football at Tribuco Hills High School, I actually covered him back then. And Todd went on to play at Saddleback for 2 years and then Nevada Reno before he went and got umpteen degrees in what he does, sports training. So Todd, welcome. It's good to see you. And you and I haven't seen each other in a little while. You look great, man.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, you got to stay in shape for what I do, right?
You know, I was thinking about, I went out and I changed my clothes because we do shows in consecutive shows in one particular day. And I said, you know what, if I'm going to go to a trainer, I want to make sure that trainer looks good and you look good.
Yeah, well, hey, you're looking great too, so good job.
So you feel good? Tell me what's been going on, because you have a busy life. You and I were just talking about, of course, you trained Mark Sanchez, since he was in high school. You still have that relationship with him. You've been to India, you've been to Brazil, you're training UFC fighters. I don't know when you sleep, drink, or eat, because you're always training somebody.
Yeah, that's pretty much the situation. You know, I have a pretty busy life. You know, I manage my gym, and I'm training athletes all day long. And, you know, I got to expend a lot of energy. I got to give everything of myself to every one of my clients each and every session. So, you know, I come home at the end of the day, you know, pop off my shoes, and I just, you know, can't move until I wake up and go right back to the grind. But, you know, the good thing is that after 17 years, I still absolutely love what I do, you know, and there's a lot of rewards in what I do. You know, I feel like I've changed a lot of lives. I've helped benefit a lot of athletes' careers over the years. And, you know, at the end of the day, I feel really good about it.
And you talk about, you know, the relationship that you and I have had over the years when I first started covering you in sports, and then it became a friendship, and then clients. We were clients of each other in that aspect, and we would always do what's called the drill of the week. And Todd would come out and we'd go to his gym and he would do a drill of the week. Todd, I learned more from those drills of the week, and I know that's the way you train. You teach to me before you train. Tell me about that. Is that somewhat of a philosophy? In the sense that you teach your athletes about training and how to do it correctly, and nutrition, and how to do it correctly, basically.
Yeah, and to go back to Cutting Edge Drill of the Week, you know, that was actually before the internet was really popular. So I think that was really popular because there was really no place that people were seeing that kind of stuff going on. And when Cutting Edge Drill of the Week came out around here, everybody was like, wow, can't believe the stuff you're doing with those athletes. And yeah, educating my clients and my athletes is something it's a necessity for what I do, because, you know, when you're working with guys that are making millions of dollars and their careers are on the line, every single thing you do has to be justified. And, you know, that's where my education and my experience comes into play. You know, if I'm having someone do a certain strength exercise or a certain conditioning drill, it's got to be specific to their sport, it's got to be specific to their position, and they got to understand what they're working. If they don't understand the muscle groups they're working or the energy system they're working, they only get about half of the result. But when you're really in tune with your body and you're understanding what the trainer is having you do, then it takes your training to a whole nother level.
You did not reach out to me. I reached out to you because I wanted to have you back on the show. When you do reach out to athletes, what do you tell them about your training style? I know you get a lot of referrals, but I'm sure people come in and kind of quiz you. So what are you going to do for me?
Yeah, I usually try to figure out what it is that they need first. You know, a lot of times people just give general recommendations as to what someone should do for speed training or strength training. But, you know, every athlete's different. And some athletes need to gain strength, some need to gain speed, some need to put on more just upper body strength, or some need to build up their legs. Usually with the young kids, you know, it's more about establishing body control and connection, and working on the foot speed and coordination. But, you know, when an athlete does contact me, I find out what they need, and then I go right into what I feel they need to do. And being that I've trained so many athletes over the years, I kind of feel like at this point I can train anyone.
Right.
for anything.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that because, when I first met you, you were doing a lot of football, you're doing a lot of baseball, basketball, but now you're doing the gamut of everything. You're training UFC fighters. Is there a particular sport that's harder to train somebody in as opposed to another sport?
Well, I know when I train UFC fighters, I got to watch out for getting punched in the face if I train them too hard. So that could be a little intimidating sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I've worked with great fighters like Anderson Silva and Antonio Nogueira, Vanderlei Silva, Shogun. Currently training Mark Munoz right now, who's maybe one fight away from a middleweight title bout, and Jake Ellenberger. And when I'm training those guys, you're working with people that go in and they fight for a living. Yeah. And the conditioning I do with them can help determine whether they get knocked out or not. So the training is very intense. I have to get in the mix with them a lot of time, do a lot of manual resisted training that simulates fight-specific situations. And so, from a danger aspect, I would say that's more dangerous.
Can I ask you this question?
Yeah.
I'm curious because, say for instance, you were, I'm not going to tell how old you are because you look 25. If you were 25 and you were training these UFC guys, would there be a little click going on in your head saying, maybe I want to try this UFC stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, I've thought about it a lot of times. I actually have a second-degree black belt in Kempo Karate, and when I was studying for that, there was no MMA. And at first, when MMA came out, I was kind of like, wow, like how can these guys do that? But now that I've been around it so much, and I realize how much of a sport it's actually become, it's more than just fighting. There's a lot of technique involved, and I would love to do jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and Muay Thai and stuff like that. But, unfortunately, my body's kind of beat down from all the years of training athletes. And that's really what I think God put me here on this planet for, is to help these guys versus be one of them.
You're a great teacher of it, and you always have been. And I know we could do a whole show on nutrition, and we're going to get to a break here in just a second, but I want to keep that, you thinking about the nutrition side of it, because what I've eaten today is nothing that you would eat, and I'm not going to share that with you, but it hasn't been good. But that's really important. And I also want to talk about the young athletes and what you're doing with the young athletes and training those athletes. So I know you've been really busy, and I know I got to ask you one question before I let we go to the next segment. What do you remember most about your days at Tribuco Hills High School here in the city of Mission Viejo?
Well, we won the CIF championship when my senior year at Tribuco, and we were the first four-year class. Dave Lowry, one of my best friends, was the quarterback, and he led the county in passing. Single season set the record, and it was just a real magical time for us because Coach Barnett, Jim Barnett, was the coach, and we were the new school in town. At that time, it was all about El Toro and Capo and Mission Viejo, and we kind of just came onto the scene, won the CIF championship, and everybody thought it was a fluke, and but it was a real special time at Tribuco Hills.
It was good times. I remember that like it was yesterday. And I believe David Lowry went down to San Diego State and did some pretty special things.
Marshall Falk was his running back, and that's kind of where that all started.
Not a bad deal. We'll have more with Todd Norman. Of course, he is the best trainer that I have ever come across. I will tell you that flat out. And I've interviewed a lot of trainers and been around a lot of trainers. He does an exceptional job. More with Todd right after this. Mission Basilica School, located in historic San Juan Capistrano, is a blue ribbon school focused not only on quality education but spiritual enlightenment, creating a learning environment that's second to none.
I love the feel of the school and what it brings.
They're wonderful kids, have great family lives. They are brothers and sisters once they reach the campus.
A blue ribbon school for academic excellence, located on the beautiful grounds of Mission San Juan Capistrano. Hello everybody, welcome back to Coach's Corner here at the Shops in Mission Viejo. Of course, the holiday season, believe it or not, is right around the corner. Shops in Mission Viejo, a great place to come. Hang out, shop, eat some food. It's wonderful. It's a great place for us to do Coach's Corner. Talking to Todd Norman, of course, he's with Cutting Edge Sports Training. And Todd, you and I were just talking about during the break, you have done a lot of things, and you just kind of rekindled my memory when you were training the Ducks, the hockey team.
Yeah, for 3 years I was a head strength and conditioning coach for the Anaheim Ducks, and used to travel with them all over Canada and the United States, and that was a pretty good experience. When I was only 26 years old when I got that job, so kind of helped launch my career.
No doubt about it. How does a kid from Tribuco Hills High School that goes to Saddleback and then goes to Nevada, Reno, end up in India and Brazil talking about sports training and nutrition?
You know what? I would say it's from a lot of hard work and dedication to what I do. And, you know, anybody in life that, you know, pursues something and goes full speed after it, you know, good things are about, you know, will happen at some point. You know, just like you've pursued your passion and you've been doing this for several years, you know.
Thank you for saying several and not saying for
yeah.
like too many years.
Yeah, but no, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's taken a lot of sacrifice, you know.
Yeah.
Good things don't come easy in life and you got to work for it. And I've paid my dues time over, and you know, I didn't get here by chance. I made it happen.
And I know that you're wearing an Under Armour shirt, but also you're affiliated with Nike, kind of going back and forth right now. I wish you luck with both of them.
Yeah.
But Nike did take you to India and Brazil.
Yeah. Well, they sent me to India actually to go promote their Train to Win campaign, and I was working with their lacrosse national cricket academy and junior soccer team. So
they love their cricket.
Yeah, and I traveled 3 different cities in India, which was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
I was, you know, there, India with Nike, not really understanding how I got there, but it was just an amazing experience.
A lot of people there, huh?
Yeah, and I was also asked to be a keynote speaker at a trainer conference in São Paulo, Brazil. And that was just another amazing experience that, you know, you never know what's going to come up in life, and those kind of opportunities arise when you put yourself out there.
Well, maybe you'll end back up in Brazil or back in Brazil when the World Cup happens, you know? That would be kind of great.
Yeah, or, you know, maybe one of the UFC fighters I'm training, a lot of them are Brazilian. And
that's right.
You never know.
I want to talk about the UFC in just a second, but let's back up a little bit and talk about the youth in sports. And you know, I'm involved in that quite a bit with the young athletes. And your thoughts, when is it too early to start training? I know it depends on the particular sport. You know, so I hear more and more about pitchers playing high school baseball, going on to college, and they're already having Tommy John surgery. You know, they start out in Little League throwing curveballs or playing football or tennis elbow or whatever. Does it depend on the athlete, Todd, or how do you approach a young athlete and their parents, and sometimes their parents' desire to walk in the footsteps of their child and maybe push them a little too hard?
Yeah, you know, I think there's a lot of factors that go into that. You know, it's not usually just one reason or another that you can point the finger to, but, you know, I have a 10-year-old boy, and, you know, I've been watching him grow, and I've been coaching all of his teams, you know, soccer and baseball, and now he just started Pop Warner football this last week. You know, and I've seen that pretty much, you know, at about the age of 6 is when, you know, I think it's important for them to start doing athletic things, you know, formally, you know, in a structured environment where there's a coach and you got to catch a ball or you got to run to a certain line, stuff like that, because when you're very young, that's when you're developing all the muscle memory and you're developing that coordination. And what I've seen training athletes is that a lot of the kids that have not ever done any training or played sports and they're, you know, 11, 12 years old, you know, they don't have that connection with their body, and they actually are way far behind unless they're just one of those rare natural athletes that just has it. I really think it's important for these young kids to get involved with sports training, being on teams, working on foot speed and coordination, getting to learn about their body and how to eat right and how to stretch, things like that, because, you know, all of a sudden you're 15, 16 years old, you have really tight hamstrings, you're out of shape, you got weak legs, you know, and you got to do a lot of catching up, and you know, and there's risk of injury that's involved as well. So I think the athletes and the kids that maybe getting these early shoulder injuries and stuff, I think they're trying to do things with their body that have a lot of chronic stresses that they're not strong enough to sustain, you know. And if you're throwing a baseball all the time, and if you don't have good strength in your posterior girdle, or you don't have good core strength and stability.
That would be your arm and shoulder?
Yeah, like in the back of your shoulder, because you're throwing the ball, you're accelerating forward, you're basically throwing your arm off your body.
Right.
So every time these muscles have to stop it. So if your legs are weak and they get tired, you start throwing with your arm more. Or if, you know, your core, that's where all this energy is transferred through from the ground up.
Right.
If this is weak and unstable, then again, you have to put more emphasis in your arm.
Right.
Your shoulder gets tired, it puts more emphasis in your elbow, and then, you know, Tommy John.
You know, you were one of the first persons that I ever heard talk about the core. I mean, maybe you and Jack LaLanne, I don't know, but but you talked about the core quite a bit. You and I are exposed to a lot of athletes there's things that we choose that we can talk about, and there's things that we choose that we don't want to talk about. And I know it's come across in your livelihood, but and I want to talk about it after we get from the break, but you know, tee you up a little bit and we'll talk about it. Is the thing going on in baseball right now with the steroids and all of that. And I know you're a clean trainer and you train from the brain on down, and I want to talk to you about that. And also, if I could just say real quickly, I got about 30 seconds left in this segment, 3 words that describe what you do, top of your head, what would they be?
I build athletes from the ground up. So I strengthen, I empower, and I motivate.
That's right, no doubt about it. We'll talk about all those 3 elements and much more. You're watching Coach's Corner. My guest, Todd Norman. We'll be back with more from the shops in Mission Viejo here in the city of Mission Viejo. Mission Basilica School is a Catholic parochial school with single-grade classrooms from pre-kindergarten through 8th grade.
We have absolutely the best to offer in education. We don't just educate the child academically. They are nurtured spiritually. They are guided through their spiritual journey. They are loved, every being of them.
A blue ribbon school for academic excellence, located on the beautiful grounds of Mission San Juan Capistrano, Mission Basilica School. Hello everybody, welcome back to this edition of Coach's Corner on location here at the shops in Mission Viejo, talking to Todd Norman, and we were briefly talking about nutrition and also a couple of things going on in the world of baseball. And Todd, I know you run into a lot of athletes, and we're kind of talking about, you know, there's things that we hear that we don't really repeat, you know, we'll say disclosed information, right, you know? Yep. But do athletes ever come to you and maybe you know that they might have taken steroids, or do they tell you, or how does that relationship and that trust kind of build, or is it even discussed?
You know, sometimes it's hard to tell nowadays, you know, because the training that we can do is so advanced, and you can get results so quickly. And if you get an athlete that's really determined and hard worker, you know, I mean, he could be all jacked up and looking great and fast, you know, but until I really get to know that person, I can't really assume how they got to that point, right. You know, or if they were to tell me, you know, what supplements they used and how they go about it, you know. Sometimes I get a little suspect, but I never accuse anybody or assume somebody's done something unless somebody's actually told me.
Yeah. Let's segue to nutrition. You know, I jokingly said you probably wouldn't eat what I ate today. Yeah. I haven't had much, I can tell you that. That's probably a bad thing, you know, not eating enough. But particular diet that you go by, what is it that you like to eat, and how does that relate to the athletes that you train?
Well, you know, the diet that I follow nowadays is called the Paleolithic diet. And
everything you say has big names, like stuff.
I'm sure a lot of people out there are familiar with it. It's pretty much the caveman diet.
Okay.
And you're supposed to eat foods that are, you know, before the Neolithic period when we had fire. Okay. And it's basically, you know, meats, chicken, fish, fruits, and vegetables. So you don't eat any processed foods. There's no dairy, there's no grains, and all the meat and fish you're supposed to eat is supposed to be organic, you know, grass-fed, free-range, you know, beef. Yeah. And so,
does that diet get expensive, seriously, or is it?
Yeah, it's just a hard one to follow because you got to go shopping a lot for fresh fruit and stuff like that, and you're not supposed to be eating any kind of grain like wheat or flour. So if you go to the grocery store, it pretty much eliminates almost everything in there. You can only find stuff on the perimeter of it, the fruits, vegetables, you know. Now, I'm not perfect, and people that know me, you know, I'm about 80-20 on that diet. Yeah. There's actually a company called Sunfair that delivers the food to me every night, and some of my athletes, and I created a paleo plan with them, and that's at www.sunfair.com. They actually send me my meals every day, and it's, you know, and that's helped me out a lot, and I think it's helped save me money because I don't spend money. When you go out to eat, you know, I can't go to certain restaurants, I won't name them, but most of the food is processed, it's, you know, not fresh, it's not organic, and you know, a lot of these foods are inflammatory, they add weight to your body, they're not good for your immune system, and you know, if you just do that alone and change your diet to healthy foods, you'd be amazed, you know, whether it's for fitness or athletics, as to the change it'll make in your body.
Okay, out on a limb, do you ever have a cold beer?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you pick a particular beer because of the diet, or does that matter?
I usually choose a light beer like Michelob Ultra or Bud Light, something like that. You know, I don't like to drink a lot of alcohol, period, but you know, I like to do things in moderation if possible.
What about that food that you just look forward to having? Like me, I'm sure it's with a lot of people. I like chocolate. I like chocolate chip cookies and milk. You know, it's not a great thing to eat, but what about you?
Yeah, you know what, Paul, it's all about balance. So, you know, I preach to people, you know, if you put a little bit of extra gas in your car, you got to go drive the car. So, you know, you got to live and enjoy your life, but at the same time, you need to be accountable to what you're putting in your body. And if you're an athlete and you're in tough training and you're trying to prepare for, you know, an intense season, you know, what you eat and when you eat it's going to make a huge difference in your ability to perform and recover between workouts. And hey, you know, if you go out and have some cake at a party, you go out and have some pizza with your friends, whatnot, it's not a big deal if you do it every now and then. But if it's something that you're doing constantly, you know, and you're not being accountable to it, meaning you're not exercising it off, that's when it becomes a problem.
Okay, I got a hard one for you because you just found out I got 5 kids at home, and you have a son that's 10 years old.
Yeah.
How do I get disciplined? How do I get my wife disciplined too? Hey, you know, I say it, Costco pizza, it's great pizza. How do we avoid, you know, doing those quick fixes? I mean, I know it's discipline.
Yeah, you know, it is a challenge. I think you need to work your family into it, and I think most of all, you need to be strategic in your preparation. You know, if it becomes something that's too difficult to organize or structure, and usually when it's last minute, it's like, oh, let's just go here and get some fast food, or let's just put this together real quick. You know, I struggle. I have a 10-year-old boy. I've been through the whole thing, and you know, sometimes he'll eat something healthy, and you know, a lot of times he won't. You know, but it's not a big deal at the end of the day. I think that as long as they see the effort that you're trying to teach them and educate them that there are other ways to eat properly, at some point they'll need to make that decision for themselves.
Yeah. You know, Todd, this show goes by too fast. When we jokingly said, Paul, he was going to bring a guest or two, but they're all training. And I go, Todd, we can sit and talk for an hour, you know, not a problem. Yeah. So, you know, as we get more into this, you know, your philosophy of getting the everyday person, a lot of them watching now, maybe off the couch and get them motivated. How do you get somebody motivated if they're not already motivated?
A lot of times it's a reality check. It's like, come in, let me take your weight, let me take your girth measurements, let me take your body fat, and let me show you, you know, kind of where you're headed. You know, when you talk about the risk factors for heart disease, the number one cause of heart attacks is inactivity. You know, and inactivity leads to, you know, an inflexible person. You don't move a lot. You start to get high, you know, blood pressure. You know, you start to get, you know, high cholesterol and things like that.
You're in a flat out bad mood.
Yeah, you know, and a lot of that's just lifestyle. So, you know, I know we're not all perfect, but at the same time, at some point, you know, judgment day will arise. And if you don't take care of your body, it's going to backfire. So when people come to me, I usually give the straight out scoop. Right. And a lot of times, you know, when people are out in public and they meet people like, oh yeah, you're looking great. When they come to me, I'm taking photos of you and I'm pinching you and I'm saying, look, this is not good. I'm going to tell you the truth and I'm not going to pull any punches.
That's what he's going to do after the show. Todd, it went by too fast. I know that you know I want to do this more and more with you. Todd does a great job.
Anytime.
Again, cutting edge sports training. Todd coming out of Tribuco Hills High School, Saddleback College for 2 years, which I'm a big advocate of, and then of course Nevada Reno before he started his career. Todd, good to see you again, my friend.
Thanks a lot, Paul.
Great job, great job. We'll talk a lot more about Todd, and you probably see him on TV other than this show at some of the sporting events. This has been Coach's Corner on location at the beautiful shops in Mission Viejo. I'm Paul Higgins for Todd Norman. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.